Welcome to this new episode of The Disabled Life. The purpose of this podcast is to tell people how I live my life. The name I'm using on the podcast now is The Disabled Guy, because I felt that you needed to hear something as opposed to just my voice there. I'm a disabled male living in Florida with cerebral palsy. I'm here to tell you how I live my life and some of the volunteer work that I do and how I manage to do it with cerebral palsy. Without further ado, let's go into the episode. This is not something that personally happened to me. This is a story that I'm going to tell you that I was told when I was in high school. What I'm saying here is something that I believe because a friend of mine told me that I believe them. Okay, let me start by saying, parents, we're not perfect, you're not perfect. We make mistakes, you make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes. But there's something that I want to say to you. The piece of advice is for parents. When you think your adolescent or child is doing something and they tell you, no, I'm not. If you don't believe them, confirm it with, confirm it, because sometimes they are telling you the truth and you don't know and you think you're right, and that causes consequences for the child that you implement because you believe that the child is wrong or is lying to you or whatever. But if you take a few minutes to think, take a few minutes to think, parents. So let me go back to the story here. So there was this person was in high school. He was underage, and the parent, I don't know which parent it was, made a mistake. I'll tell you what the mistake was. The parent thought that the child was asking someone to tell them to take them somewhere. It wasn't true. The child actually had told the person, do not. I will tell them. They did not, because they knew that this was a thing that the parent thought, and this person did not want to perpetuate this thing. So, but here comes the moral of the story. The person called one of the parents and told them. So the parent that was upset assumed that the person had been telling them this. So when this is what I was told. So when the person gets off the phone, the parent yells and yells and yells for multiple hours because this is going on, and truthfully, it wasn't. So so parents, the moral of the story here is think about it, believe it. If you don't believe it, check with people. Because one time this person told me that it happened one time coincidentally, and the person believed that the person believed that the child did it. It's not true in this case, because I'm not saying children don't lie. I'm not gonna say that to you. But they don't. But 9 times out of 10 they're not going to. And I'm gonna make the assumption here that if a person is upset, if a teenager or a child knows that a person is upset, they are not going to go. They're not going to want to go with the parent that's upsetting them somewhere. It makes sense. So think about it. Why would they do this? But here we go. I have another story also going on where, there's things that parents do. That's why I say parents make mistakes, we make mistakes. But the advice is don't always assume that your child is doing the wrong thing. Don't do it. Think about things first before you make the assumption. If you have a valid reason why you know that is the case, okay, then take care of the problem. I'm not saying don't discipline your children or your adolescents, whatever. But don't make assumptions that they know that they're intentionally doing something, because it's very, very frustrating when when you as a person know that you have told somebody not to do something and they do it because they think they're doing the right thing. Oh my God. And another piece of advice, if this is for family members, caregivers, whoever it is, or friends, if a person tells you don't do something, don't go around. I know you mean well, but don't do it, because then if you do it, it may cause a problem for the person. Like in this case, it did, and it caused problems and argument and yelling and all this unnecessarily, because the person was told not to make the phone call. Don't do it. And the person was told by my friend, don't make the phone call. Don't do it. But it was done. And there's nothing the disabled can do or the adolescent can do. Because what can you do? Once they assume that someone did something wrong, that you as a child or adolescent did something wrong, they're gonna scream, yell, maybe even punish you for something you are not doing, something that somebody else is doing, and it's not something that they want, or anybody wants. Somebody making a mistake like that. So the thing is that the parents don't understand. Once that is done, that you have to, the adolescent has to, the adolescent has to tell the other person, hey, you did something wrong, and you don't know how awkward that is, because you make an assumption. That's wrong. You don't do that. Don't make an assumption. This is a piece of advice that came up that from a story that I was told. It is something that can happen. But I'll say again, mistakes can happen. Mistakes happen. I understand that. I really respect that. But please make sure you know what you're doing before you start complaining or disciplining a person when you're yelling at them. Because people make mistakes. Not only you, me, anybody can make a mistake. And anyone makes mistakes. You make a mistake by yelling when it's not warranted. So what I say is, the moral of the story here is, make sure you know. Make sure you're sure what you know. Make sure you're sure that you know what you're doing before you do something. Just because somebody calls you, parents, don't assume that the person said something to tell them that. And the story here is, the person told me that they sent a text message and saying, don't do it. Don't do it. And if the person if you start arguing with a person and they say, no, let me show you, and they show you their phone or their tablet or their computer, whatever it is, and they say, no, this is not, this is here. Listen to that, because it's true. It's true. You'll see text messages and you'll see formats. For example, in Facebook iMessage, instant message, Facebook IM. Okay, let me explain that. It's blue sorry. It's blue when a person, when I, for example, when I as a user send a message, it's blue. When a message gets sent to me as a user, it is black. So you can easily tell who said what to who by that. And I'm not going to talk about other messaging systems because I'm not sure. But there is one color that signifies a sender. There's another color that signifies a recipient. So you understand concepts, you understand messages. So listen and talk. I know some people get frustrated, and I get it. And I know people think that other people lie, and I get it. But I know it is frustrating because I'm a disabled person, and it's so frustrating when you tell somebody no, and listen, and they tell you, you're doing what they said, even though you know you're not. In closing, let me say thank you for listening to this episode of The Disabled Life. You can follow me on the following platforms. You can follow me at Good Pods. You can leave comments, messages there. You can also follow me on Twitter at The Disabled Guy. And you can also listen to me on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and many others. Once again, thank you for listening, and I'll also give you my email. My email is Kilo Echo 4 Kilo Echo Yankee, or KE4 KEY at gmail.com. Once again, thank you, and thank you for your support, and I'll see you next week. Additionally, when I did an outro, I did not realize that you could leave messages on Spotify. You can leave ratings on Apple Podcasts and also Spotify. And also you can leave a one-time message on Apple Podcasts, but only one time for every listener. So once again, thank you.